Hello, I'm Alex,
And I'm Joel.
and we just saw Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yes, that's true.
Actually, you just saw it. Well, you saw it yesterday. I just saw it. I just came from seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw it last night. We were originally planning on seeing it today, but I got roped in with some people, and we ended up seeing it last night. But the point is that we have both seen it, and we're all ready to talk about it.
Yeah, it was interesting. The theater I went to, as soon as I bought my tickets, the power goes out, and I start smelling smoke, and then apparently someone burnt pretzels in the lobby, and then they had to restart the projectors because the power went out.
Yeah, but we're talking like staff at the okay. Yeah, because when you said it the first time, it just sounded like somebody set a thing of pretzels on fire for kicks or something.
Yeah, so I waited a little while, but it was nothing, and it added, the scent of burnt pretzels really added to the movie.
It did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess with all like the spaceships getting blown up and
Charred
stuff.
bodies.
Yeah.
But yes, we saw it. So,
We did.
Joel, what did you think of Star Trek Into Darkness?
Well, as I was in my theater, as the lights went up, there was this guy who, there were like these three middle-aged, heavy-set men sitting in front of me, and one of them stood up and said, well, I was satisfied, but not in the way, not like as in the movie was a satisfying experience, but like some kind of quota of referential stuff had been reached, so that it yeah, or something like that. That's maybe I was just sort of projecting my own response to the movie onto him, but that's really what it sounded like. Like it appeased the fan, and to the certain extent that he could get over what else didn't work about the movie. And to me, this movie didn't
wasn't
play
a sufficient reason.
Yeah, this movie didn't play as well as the first one.
Yeah, no, it didn't as a whole. It started out good. I liked the opening of this movie.
Really?
Like, I thought the movie, like you said, I thought it kind of like trailed off, and it didn't. It was kind of disappointing where it went towards the end, but I liked the opening of the movie because it was just an interesting setting. Of course, I'm going to be really superficial about why I liked it, but like they're on this planet, and then it's just like there's lots of color.
Yeah,
on this planet.
it's also in the trailer, like the red.
The red
sort of
forest,
planet,
yeah, it's really, I like that because it was like really, really colorful, and you see in sci-fi movies today, there's just not that much color on like alien worlds and stuff, not to that extent. So it was good that they kind of went a little garish in this case, which I liked, and because it reminded me of just older science fiction. I mean, that was kind of cool in the beginning, but then when the story got taken on, I started to pick out where things were going when one character showed up and her name was Carol Marcus. Dr. Marcus, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Alright, well. Because at first I thought the guy was going to be like, I don't know, somebody like from the Star Trek fest. Because I thought they could have done Khan, but maybe they did Gary Mitchell. That would have been cool.
Yeah, there were some theories going around that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be playing Gary Mitchell.
Yeah. But basically, turns out to be Khan. And the way he says it, though, is just like, he says it, and then he looks at the audience like, yeah.
Yeah, the way that he pauses right before he says it, too, like he knows there's some kind of pop culture significance to this line.
There we go.
And he's not just introducing himself. Because these people in the series haven't even encountered him before. He's just introducing himself. So it would be like if I walked up to someone and said, I'm Joel. Oh, nice to meet you. Now, I mean, it's not like there's no in-story reason for him to pause and like make a big deal that his name is Khan, except the audience.
Yeah, that was one thing. Like, they derailed a lot of stuff just to be able to be like drop these references, like the needs of the moment.
Well, the first movie had quite a few references too. But what worked about the first movie was, and this was kind of something that right from the opening scene, which I didn't like as much as I guess you did.
Well, I guess I only like that part.
Like the planet.
I just like the design.
I enjoyed the first movie quite a bit actually. There was a real sense of kind of novelty, or it was really neat to see sort of these characters come together and who's going to play them, how they're going to play their roles, how they're going to interact with each other, and how they sort of grow into the characters who we know from the TV series and movies. And so there's a certain amount of coolness to it, and it even works on repeat viewings. I've seen it again a few times, and it's still entertaining. It's still kind of neat to see them all come together. Right from the start, this movie doesn't have that going for it. All the characters are in their places. They already sort of know the rules. They already have these interactions, so there's not a whole lot of places for them to go, really, with this new premise. So I figured that they would have to be kind of inventive with how they sort of did a second movie, and they weren't, which was a big problem. Right from the opening scene, struck me, especially because I was watching it with some people who had not seen the previous movie. I guess we've been calling it the first movie, but that's not really very accurate. The most recent Star Trek film. So they had never seen sort of the new original crew cast. So I was kind of thinking of this movie as sort of from the perspective of someone who hadn't seen the previous films. And watching the pre-titles, it is a pre-title sequence because the movie, the title comes up after it. Watching the scene, it sort of struck me as like some sort of live-action realization of a Flash animation parody of what a modern Star Trek movie would be like. Like, imagine if there wasn't any of the J.J. Abrams movies, and like somebody was trying to visualize it, because it's like they're all like these hot young people like going around on this planet. It's like this crazy action sequence, and they're like flying around in a thing, and Uhura's there for some reason, and then like she's in a relationship with Spock, and it just all this stuff sort of. And all this crazy music, just this mad action, and the Enterprise sort of like has this huge reveal, and it was very, very much.
Yeah, you've obviously had more time to articulate this, because I'm still like my mind's still reeling after seeing it.
It's very much. It doesn't have what made the first movie play so well for me. It doesn't. I think that the writers, too, felt that they had a little bit more freedom. They obviously were might have been a little bit sheepish or very sort of careful about what they included in the first movie. Even watching the special features, you hear them talking about being afraid to have the Klingons in the movie because they were afraid that the audience wouldn't accept a redesign or something like that. That scene was ultimately cut out of the first movie. But here it seems like they thought, well, people like the first movie, so we have carte blanche to do what sort of anything that we wanted to in this movie.
And they barely show the Klingons in this one.
Mm-hmm. I don't even know why they bothered redesigning them and taking off the helmets.
I know.
Anyway.
Well, I don't even know why they bothered. Well, I guess for the story wise, but I don't even know why they bothered going to Kronos.
Well, because people know what that is, and they're like, oh, it's the thing from Star Trek.
Well, they had to explain that it was the Klingon homeworld, though. But, I mean, I already knew that, because I'm a frickin' nerd. But, I'm a freaking... Yeah. Anyway, but there were some other things that, like, I'm fed up. Up to here with this Spock Uhura thing. And many people are, but the thing I notice, it's like I want it to be Spock, Kirk, and McCoy, like, because McCoy is very much often, pushed over to the sick bay. Like, he's there for a lot of the action of the movie, if I recall, and I mean, there's different stuff going on, or at least like what they did. At the end of the movie where Uhura kind of saves Spock. Like, she beams down right there at the nick of time. Which
doesn't really make any sense, because they're like, we can't lock onto them because they're moving around. Can we beam someone down onto this thing which is moving around?
Yes! It's Uhura, and I thought that was dumb.
Well, it's just...
I just basically don't like... because I don't care about Uhura. I care about Spock, Kirk, and McCoy.
It's kind of a really tricky situation where you kind of have to be clever with the writing, though, because you have McCoy is a little bit harder to work into the dynamic in the television series.
Action.
Yeah,
dynamic.
in the television series and the other movies, you
Yeah.
had sort of like these very complex issues that the characters had to decide on, and you had McCoy sort of in between Spock and Kirk, kind of mediating between the two and sort of
Yeah.
aiding in the discussion.
Now it's just punching.
And now, since there's all this punching, like, what are you going to do with the Doctor? You know?
He's gonna be back there like tending to people's bruises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, it's very difficult to try and work McCoy into this, 2000s blockbuster Star Trek movie, because of the nature of the beast. And with Uhura, you have like the exact opposite problem. Well, we have this character who everyone knows from the TV show, and we have her in the movie, but she's not going to do anything. She's just a communications officer. So how can we sort of get her into the mix? And I guess they sort of thought, well, we'll have a love story, and it just ballooned into this thing.
So you've got. I thought like I was kind of interested to see where the story was going at one point, like, and then when like Khan, when it was like revealed that it was Khan for sure, then I was kind of like disinterested a little, just because I don't know. I just wanted to see another Star Trek adventure, and
Right.
Okay, I gotta address this. I'm getting freaking sick and tired of, like, shaky cam, I'll accept that's everywhere in the live action scenes with them. I am getting tired of it in, like, outer space and aerial shots. The snap zooms like it's a bloody documentary.
The opening shot.
Doom,
Yeah.
doom.
I don't get it. It wasn't.
I
like
hate
that.
it.
It wasn't like that in the first movie, was it?
Some shots of it where it's just, I'm getting...
I remember there being like some zooms, but it was
I'm
more steady and stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, it's... Thank you, found footage movies.
Well, thank you, Firefly and Battlestar Galactica, really. I mean, with Battlestar Galactica, at least it made a little bit of sense because the show was shot like The Office, or like Arrested Development or something like that.
I mean, that's the
so they wanted the outer
thing.
space shots to kind of match.
There were scenes where I wanted to see the visuals. Like, I wanted to actually take in some of the visuals that were going on, but it don't just... And I'm just... That's like a really minor... Well, no. In this, if you want to enjoy some of the stuff, that is kind of a major thing that's getting in the way. Not to mention I saw this in 3D, so it was already playing in my eyes.
I saw it in 2D.
Okay,
so.
yeah, I saw it in 3D. I mean, there was nothing, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, there were just some other things, like, I don't know, I tried to enjoy what I could out of the movie, so I'm going to say that, what I enjoyed about it. I enjoyed some of the, like, action, just kind of like, some of the action scenes, some of the stuff with McCoy, with Bones.
Okay.
And he was great. Like,
Yeah.
he really does have that down.
Karl Urban is definitely
Yeah.
one of the better aspects in both movies, even though he really doesn't do a whole lot in either one.
No.
He really does, yeah.
Yeah, and, I like that. I don't know if I really liked him in it, but Peter Weller was just interesting having him around.
I like, I was, like that was actually the aspect that I was most excited about this movie. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see Star Trek Into Darkness with Peter Weller and some other people are in it, I guess.
Yeah.
I was interested to see like what he would do and what his part was.
I don't know, he didn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean...
And then he got the Roy Batty treatment.
Yeah.
And that was kind of... I don't know, that was interesting, because I kept seeing, like, all these, like, weird little... It's like Kirk, there's a scene where Kirk's in bed with, like, two cat women.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's, like, hip-hop music
on vinyl. Which was interesting. I'm not going to nitpick that and just say it's interesting. And then he's, like, partying with the Puma twins.
Yeah.
Or something. I mean, yeah, but the thing was, I was interested to see where this film was going, because there were scenes like the scene going to Kronos where they, have to go down there covertly, and that had my interest sort of. And then, but once the Khan stuff started, then they were trying to. Then it basically became a build up into a remake of the last, act of Wrath of Khan.
To the point where it's awkward. It completely robs the movie of any individual identity that it might have had.
Yeah.
See,
it's going into parody territory.
We're coming into this as we've made a lot of comments sort of as Star Trek fans.
Mm-hmm.
And you might say that's a little unfair. Well, why can't you take the movie on its own terms? Because the movie doesn't let us. If you've never seen anything related to Star Trek and don't know anything about it, and you see this movie, you're going to find an entertaining flick. It's very entertaining. It's well put together, I guess. The problem comes where, if you know anything about the other Star Trek movies or have seen them, this movie almost goes out of its way to remind you of those to the point where it can't stand on its own, and I really can't take it on its own.
I could care less if I never saw this movie again.
Yeah.
It was forgettable because I could see, I was like, alright, we're going there. And then they're reenacting, they literally reenact the scene where, well, in this case, Kirk dies to save the Enterprise. But they literally reenact the entire scene to the point where they're giving pretty much the same lines to people. Like, Scotty's like, don't you flood the whole compartment. Well, no,
that line.
That was McCoy's
Yeah,
line,
well,
actually.
McCoy in the original.
There's still
and Scotty in
reiterating
this
it.
one. The thing is, though, that line of dialogue, they copy it so much that it doesn't even make sense. Like where Scotty says, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you saw it today, so my memory might not be as fresh. But Scotty goes, you'll flood the whole compartment, and McCoy in the original said, you'll flood the whole compartment. In the original though, they're in a room, so there's a compartment to flood. In this, they're in the engine room, which is this huge expansive. So saying you'll flood the compartment doesn't make sense if you're in a gigantic engine.
And that would sound like a nitpick, except for the fact that. That would sound like that would be a nitpick if that line came from this specific movie.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't. It's just because they're reusing that from Wrath of Khan.
I don't want to come across like a fanboy, and I certainly don't want to come across as like somebody who's trying to dislike this movie. It's just that the movie goes out of its way to remind you of these other movies, and when it does so, when it just lifts dialogue without context, it doesn't translate.
I did like the warp core design. I will say that I like the design of the warp core, the outside of it. Like it looked like, well, it didn't really look Star Trek-y, or maybe it did. I don't know. I just like the design of it, but and the inside was cool too. But the problem was like, and then they had the scene with like the Tribble when they figured out that Khan's blood is like. Has like this regenerative property, so they're like, oh, hey, look, the Tribble came back to life. Let's get Khan to get more of his blood, and then Khan's like, Space Jesus now?
I guess so.
He becomes kind of a weird space
or maybe
Jesus.
He's like Space Robert Neville or something.
I'd pay to see that. The ending of this movie is basically the crew's back together. The crew's back together, and they, I don't know. I thought it was really dumb the way they ended things with Khan. They're like, oh, we have him. We'll put him back in cryo sleep so he can, totally return,
in a sequel.
In a sequel one day, yes. And like, okay, you're still keeping the Khan aspect, there. But I mean, if you do a whole new story with Khan, that would be pretty cool. If it was a whole new story, but it's still like, I don't know. I thought the whole idea of them keeping him alive was pretty stupid.
Well, wouldn't they like put him on trial or something? Why do they just freeze him again?
I don't know. And then Jim Kirk says
Isn't
something
that what
like,
they said they were going to do? Like, they were gonna put him on trial?
No, they said they were going to, or Peter Weller wanted them to go kill him.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, he has to stand trial. And he's like, he's a war criminal. And I was like, oh,
There's like,
I see what they're doing.
Yeah, they were trying to I think they were trying to do some kind of commentary on
Yeah.
the war in Iraq.
They were trying to do something like that.
And even at the end of the movie, just for confirmation, they have this film is dedicated to post 9/11 war veterans.
Wait, they had
in
that?
the credits.
Oh,
yeah.
I was texting then.
Yeah.
I was like, because I was telling something when I was out of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the music's playing. Well, oh wait, like that was before the main normal credits.
I don't know where it was. I think it was like right after the.
So basically,
credits.
like Khan is like Osama bin Laden, or no,
or something. No.
or Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, he would be Saddam Hussein.
Or Saddam
because
Hussein.
yeah.
And then
the Klingons are Osama bin Laden. Because
anyway,
they want to start a war with the Klingons, so they attack Khan and
Klingons
Peter
were
Weller.
Saddam Hussein. No,
No. The Klingons are Osama bin Laden.
and Peter Weller is
George
Bush.
George Bush.
Peter Weller is George Bush.
Okay.
I'd pay to see that, but but this movie was like a not so veiled thing about the Iraq War and 9/11
I guess
and that sort of thing.
props for trying to bring in some sort of social commentary into
Yeah,
a science fiction action movie.
No props for making kind of a lame rehash
Yes.
of another movie.
It's like, going back through the Star Trek canon, you have adaptations of Moby Dick and various other great literature. Occasionally they'll take concepts from previous Star Trek movies, but now we're down
Next
to...
Generation did that.
Yeah, Next Generation
The
did
second
that.
episode.
Star Trek the Motion Picture did that from Changeling.
Oh yeah.
The original crew episode. But it made it a whole new story. There weren't actually like whole lines lifted from the thing. V'ger was a completely different entity from Nomad. It was just like a similar premise. It wasn't like they took entire lines of dialogue or scenes or...
Yeah.
Spock yells Khan.
Yeah.
By the way.
Okay, how did your audience react to that?
I don't know. I was too busy burying my head in my hands.
Oh, you weren't laughing?
I don't know if I was or not.
I was laughing. There were like 4 other people in the theater, but even if it was a packed theater, I would have still laughed my head off because that was so funny. That was just hilarious. Like, yeah, this is why we have this up because it was so funny. And then the music builds and like Spock just like God. Just
I was
I'm sorry because now it's just like okay, the people have probably been talking about this.
I'm
a while
sure.
already,
I haven't
but
been on the
it's
internet
like,
about it.
Now people are going to associate that line with satire and comedy and stuff.
The thing about it was, like, I couldn't laugh because I was so shocked that they actually went there. I was like, oh my gosh.
I sensed it coming, and then it
I
was more just kind of like
that
laughing and insanity.
That whole scene though, with with just the reenactment, I was like, the instant that he knocked out Scotty and went into the thing, I was like, no, and then
Actually, you know what's so interesting? Scotty kind of filled in the Bones role of with Kirk and Spock in a bunch of the scenes.
Yeah.
Scotty was pretty cool in this movie. Like he had some cool stuff to do.
Yeah.
That was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then there were some interesting references to like the Star Trek universe. Like in one point, I think they mentioned something like the Mud incident or something to do with mud at one point. It was like a really quick line. But they mentioned that, and then something about Nurse Chapel.
That was in the last movie.
No. They mentioned
Nurse Chapel again in this.
They mentioned something Christine Chapel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kirk is like something.
because
like
I know in the first movie it's like when Kirk's hands swell.
Yeah, and they're like, Nurse Chapel.
Nurse Chapel, give me a
yeah. But in this one, Kirk was saying like, oh, she went to some like far out station to be a nurse or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But. Let's see. Yeah. Well, at the end of the movie, basically they're going off on their 5-year mission.
Right.
And I'm like, at the end of the last Star Trek movie, I was like, okay, great, a new series is beginning. The human adventure is just beginning again. And then I'm just like, okay, now the human adventure is just beginning again. And I'm thinking, like, hey, what episode of the original series are they gonna rehash for the next movie?
Why would they have to? Is I think the bigger question.
Why would they have to?
I guess to capitalize on nostalgia value, to try to appease the, heavy-set, nerdy guy who was sitting in front of me, who said, I was satisfied.
I was satisfied.
Yeah, once you reach your quota of referential dialogue and content, you can get away with murder, I guess.
But then Kirk is saved by the blood of Khan, and returns to live again.
It was so odd. I don't know. They did one thing that I kind of thought was kind of fun is
yes.
Admiral Pike. I think the Admiralty in general, their uniforms were the ones from Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Oh yeah. It was like the Admiral uniform that Kirk had.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
I kind of like that.
Of course, he dies because he's old.
Yeah, well, he dies because he's old, and also because it's like
he's a father figure.
Yeah, there's like screenwriting 101 there.
Father figure.
Right before all this happens, he's like he's like overtly chummy with Kirk, and is like, "I believe in you, son."
I suck at screenwriting, and I even knew that was gonna
yeah.
happen. No, I didn't know it was going to happen, but I wasn't surprised when it did.
I was like when, they're sort of figuring. When Kirk is saying, well, wait a minute, they're going to come to, this guy's going to come here and he's going to shoot us or something. Like, when they were leading that, I was like, oh, okay, he's going to get there and there's going to be the shootout. Woo. And then, Admiral Pike's going to get killed and there's going to be...
No, he was supposed to get in a crash and then be put in a wheelchair. And then he has to get brought to the trial.
Yeah, why couldn't the laser why couldn't the laser have burned his face?
Well, who cares? It's not important. We're not remaking the Cage or the Menagerie. Yeah, but
that would be kind of cool, I guess.
But that's the thing, like you mentioned too. It's like all like you were saying, like if you're making a parody of what a contemporary Star Trek movie would be like, you'd have all young hot people, and old people, and like we gotta kill the old people.
Yeah. And all these action scenes after another, sort of like this, there's got to be all the sexy stuff. So we'll throw in, like girl changing, and then, No,
not even girl changing, but just girl undresses, freezes, camera looks at her, then the scene ends.
That's right. Yeah, there was. Wait, what was she changing into? I don't even remember.
See
what?
She's just like. Oh no! She's like, don't look, and she's like, why? Just tell him you're changing. No, don't look. Why? No, just don't look. It's like, and he's just like...
And then there's there's a scene earlier with Kirk and the two Puma twins or whatever.
Yeah, I don't even... They were more like...
Or some
cat things. I just call them
the things from Splice.
I wanted them to be the Puma twins from Dominion Tank Police. Splice, yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know. So... Yeah, there's so you gotta have you gotta fill the sexiness quota, you gotta have the young hot people going around, you gotta have the romantic subplots, and Spock in this movie is not I don't know if there's some sort of case that you can make about this, but Spock in this movie felt less like a Vulcan or some sort of alien, or more some sort of brilliant individual
who's really antisocial.
Who's really antisocial.
Yeah.
That's what I felt about it. It was like one of the cast members from The Big Bang Theory or something.
Devoid. Well, no, actually no, because that'd be giving Big Bang Theory too much credit.
Oh no, I never meant to do that.
No.
Don't misunderstand. No, I hate The Big Bang Theory.
I almost gave The Big Bang Theory. I said devoid of humor, but then okay, but well, no, yeah, he's like the tall guy from Big Bang Theory. Just he doesn't have a laugh track.
Yeah.
Because you probably could put a laugh track on some of his dialogue.
Yeah.
And it's like, ha, he said something smart, or he said a lot of big words. That's what I think of the Big Bang Theory.
I don't know. I guess some geek out there is going to be arguing, well, because he met Spock and Spock told him to get along with Kirk, he changed and he embraced his more human side. And I don't care.
And I don't... Yeah, I was like, well, there you go. Leonard Nimoy's final screen appearance, probably as Spock.
Oh, good, yeah. I'm so glad he was here to read the plot synopsis to Wrath of Khan off of Wikipedia.
And then we escape, and then Khan will probably quote some more Moby Dick, and then... Yeah, he should have done that. He just
I like Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor.
yes, and I didn't expect it. I was like, you know what, this guy should be like punching holes in people right now. The way they establish his superhuman strength, the whole movie there was like the same punch sound effect but like you just got the sense that people are just a bunch of punching bags, and they just get knocked out if they get punched hard enough.
Or they get blown backwards or something.
One thing I didn't expect, which was kind of like I was like, oh shoot, was when he does something to Dr. Marcus and just like breaks her leg or something, and I was like, oh, but then later she's just like, it's like he like bruised her leg though. She's not just like hyperventilating in shock or anything. She's just like, I'm alright.
With the angles, I thought he broke her spine or something, like with some of the angles. But then she's like walking later.
Yeah,
so I guess not.
Broke her leg. And I was kind of like, oh, whoa, that was.
Yeah, that was villainous. But he commands some good screen presence.
He does.
He's in this film, even though he doesn't really have a whole lot to work with.
What was he? What else has that guy been in?
Well, he was in the BBC remake of Sherlock, sort of the updated version, which I enjoy.
People have said it's good, but honestly, probably most of those reasons are just because there's yet again cast with a bunch of hot people.
Yeah, who are like
30 something.
Yeah, and they're in like a live-in relationship, but they're platonic. So there's like all this like crackling, non-existent sexual tension between Holmes and Watson, which has been exploited. I am so annoyed by that because I got into the show before it developed a fan base over here. Not to sound like a hipster. Whoa, what happened?
I think I'm better than everyone now.
You know, you're right. Anyway, as I was saying, I got into Sherlock kind of before a lot of people in the U.S. did. I watched it on PBS, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very clever, sort of updated take on Arthur Conan Doyle, and I thought the actors were really good in it. I enjoyed both of them. So I've seen Benedict Cumberbatch in that before, and some other stuff. And yeah, he's a quite a good actor. He has some good screen presence. He delivers his lines very well. He's a very theatrical sounding voice.
Yeah, which is for better or worse in this film, because I do notice, like, I kept comparing him to Ricardo Montalban in the back of my head, only because I was saying, okay, how did he say his lines that made him, different than this guy? Because I noticed villains today, they absolutely have to, every single time they say something, they have to be, like, really brooding, and the mic has to be like in their larynx or something.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's just a sign of the sound design times, though. A lot of any quiet scene.
I could go on and on.
Yeah, any quiet scene in a movie. Any quiet scene in a movie, like the mic's always got to be like right down in there, just to make the sound design more intense. So that people don't fall asleep during the quiet scenes.
That was pretty cool when the Enterprise was actually like falling out of the sky.
That was kind of neat. There was like the gravity thing was shifting around. That was a fun action scene.
Yeah.
Don't get us wrong. It was entertaining from the standpoint of an action movie.
Yeah.
It
just if it failed as a story.
It didn't work, and not only did it fail as a story, but it kept deliberately inviting comparison to other movies,
which I didn't want to be doing,
which is something. Yeah, I want to enjoy a new Star Trek movie with this new cast. I don't want to watch The Wrath of Khan again.
It's like it's Wrath of Khan with the 2013 Star Trek players.
Yeah, and with the action scenes and all the romantic tension you didn't want. So the whole time I wanted to. I would sound so sexist for saying this, but like the whole time Uhura was in scenes, I was like, get back on the bridge, Uhura. Well, that's where her character belongs.
I know.
She's a communications officer.
Your character belongs on the bridge.
Like, there was that one scene where they justified that she speaks Klingon.
They justified that.
And that worked. That was a clever way to get her in the scene. But even then, they just used it so that they could have back and forth about the relationship between Spock and Uhura.
Yeah, like, I'm so sick of, like, the Uhura stuff. The most Uhura ever got to do in the original cast was do that fan dance in Final Frontier.
And that was the worst thing that ever happened.
That's
I don't get me
that's
wrong.
all that Uhura ever got to do.
Yeah.
Which I was, you know, I'm not okay with the fan dance, but I was fine that she never got to do anything because she wasn't as interesting as the rest of the characters.
She's a communications
and this
officer.
Uhura is still not as interesting as the rest of the
actually
characters.
less interesting.
She's she's definitely less interesting.
Because now it's like she's sort of being forced on us.
So, yes.
So if you've never seen a Star Trek movie before and you just want to go out and see some good action, I would recommend not seeing this movie and instead watching Wrath of Khan or just watching the other J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie again.
One's pretty good.
I liked it quite a bit. So
I wanted to make this comment in the movie was like they're running through the engine block,
right,
and like the radiation symbols are on the things, and I was just like, oh no, our radioactive ale is leaking.
It does look like a brewery, the engine room.
Yeah, but
this just
spend your money on it if you kind of, you know, if you're familiar with Star Trek, or if you don't care about Star Trek and you just want action, yeah, go see it.
Yeah,
But if you really like Star Trek, I'd wait and like see it on whatever the heck they use to see movies. Redbox and Netflix, or wait, no, that's too far in the future.
I don't know. We'll
yeah,
see. Yeah,
but just don't spend your money on seeing the theater, or at least see a 2D showing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like looking for the scope and you just want to have an evening out, fine.
Yeah,
but you know, I would more highly recommend that you see anything else in the Star Trek, like the original crew Star Trek films. Any of the other ones.
Yeah, it's just a shame they botched those Blu-rays.
Yeah, well.
None of the movies ever take, like, these movies don't take risks anymore. Like, I was just talking about Dune earlier. What a colossal gamble. And that movie really didn't win
It didn't
in
pay
any
off.
way.
Yeah.
It didn't pay off. But it sticks around. It's stuck around because it was such a huge just gamble. I mean, there's nothing else like it, and I'm kind of like saying now these days, it's just a digital ooze, and it's all homogenous.
And everything's got to be a sure thing.
You know, yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, you know, marketing always kind of elevates stuff, but I just kind of wish that there was something that, you know, we could say, you know, this is the movie of our times, or
yeah. I mean, it's just
I
can't believe I just really can't understand the nerve of producers, because they treat us like sheep, the audiences, and I don't care if they deserve it or not. I don't care if we are dumb masses. We need to have movies that have a good pace to them. Like, this movie's pacing was not conducive to anything except for the action sequences. Any sort of human moments that they have felt like they were forced, or like they were trying to work it into the context of an action scene, or just the overall idea of an action movie.
Yeah.
And there's no, like, a quiet moment only works if it's been earned and you can actually take a break for it. And the ditto with the action scenes. You know, action scenes in an action movie are really only that thrilling if they're spaced out well and there are characters in them that you're invested in. So, you know, like we were saying earlier about Screenwriting 101 and how Admiral Pike died, it was so telegraphed because the only information given in between all those action scenes was like this build-up of Pike as like a mentor, father figure to Kirk, and then the very next scene is another action scene where the thing happens, so you're like, oh, okay, he's gonna die, because, you know, there wasn't like a whole lot going on story-wise. It's just all the necessary elements and nothing more, just so you can squeeze the maximum amount of action into it.
Yeah, you know, lately I'm kind of like, I get excited when I see a real set in a movie, or I see like somebody, they actually made a proper real vehicle. At least the Tribble was real in this movie.
The Tribble was real. Like, all the sets, there were a lot of sets in this movie that were real too. Like, in the ending, there's the fight on the two car things. The two car things were real. the sets that they were fighting on were actually real. It wasn't like
Yeah,
they
no.
were against a green screen.
I figured that out.
The Klingon planet set was
all
was-
real.
Yeah, it was the Klingon planet, like the set where they get off the ship. A lot of that was real,
Oh, just that.
and they
okay.
extended.
I thought you meant
yeah.
the planet.
No.
No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean CGI is not going anywhere, but I would be happy to like maybe someday see people using like model ships, for spaceships and stuff. Just using that, like that would be so cool to see that again, just integrated, in a way because that's. I don't know, it's just not really being done.
What's really problematic is that in order to make the CGI look more photorealistic, they're making everything else look slick and sort of
Yeah.
fake looking.
So therefore, if you put a real model in there, it
It
automatically
would look too real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then again, but at the same time, CGI is trying to be too real to the point where you're numb looking at it.
CGI is trying to be too real, so we try to make the real things look more fake, so that if we tried to use real things to make them look real, it would look too real and therefore look fake in context to the other stuff which is also fake.